All right, we are ready to begin. So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this Ask the Experts webinar. I'm Allison Phillips, Director of Marketing on Cox Media's corporate team, and I'll be hosting. Some quick housekeeping items before I introduce our guest expert. This presentation is being recorded. You'll receive an email with the recording so you can watch it again at your convenience or share with your teams. We have about 45 minutes of great content for you and 10 minutes or so set aside for Q&A. If at any time during the presentation you have a question, just type it into the question box on your screen and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So now that that's out of the way, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest expert, John Jan. John is a marketing consultant, speaker, and best-selling author of multiple marketing books, including Duct Tape Marketing, The Referral Engine, and his new upcoming book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. He started his own marketing consulting practice in the 90s and quickly discovered a passion for working with small to mid-sized businesses. In the time since, he has shared his approach to marketing with thousands through his books and has seen just how much marketing and consumer behavior has changed over the years. As we all know, the way people buy products and services today looks very different than it did even just before the pandemic, let alone 5 or 10 years ago. It's gotten harder and harder to create demand for products and services simply because it's gotten harder to understand the journey people take to find the products and services they seek. In this session, John is going to share a system for understanding that customer journey, a system that sets you up to create customers for life. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, John.
All right, thanks so much, Allison. So welcome, everyone. So I was introduced as an author and an expert and all those titles that go along with that. But frankly, what I'm going to talk about today is something that I have been doing and do every single day and practice with now thousands of business owners. And I think that that's why the folks at Cox Media wanted to bring this to you, because it is going to be very practical and actionable. And I really encourage you to take notes, but more than that, take action. Do something with what you learned today so you just move maybe one tiny step closer to where you're trying to go. I want to start off today by talking a little bit about how marketing has changed, as Allison alluded to, with a few statistics. 61% of mobile searches are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile-friendly website. So in the internet age, of course, we have to have the digital age. We have to have a site that now increasingly looks great on those little tiny screens as well as the big screens. 87% of potential customers won't consider a business with low ratings. There are other people out there talking about our businesses, leaving marks and talking about our brand and all those places that we have to participate in. We now have to play in the reviews game thoroughly. 64% of consumers say watching a video on Facebook has influenced a purchase decision. So it's not enough to just be on the social platforms. We now have to be mastering all the various ways in which people consume content on those platforms. 92% of consumers will visit a brand's website for the first time for reasons other than making a purchase. Our website has a lot of jobs to do. It's not there to just talk about how great we are and how great our products and services are. We have to understand why people are coming there and what they're trying to accomplish. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. These have all been statistics about our digital presence today. 86%, and this is a very recent PricewaterhouseCoopers research on customer experience, 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience. That's not necessarily a digital experience. Now, here's the one that I think is the most confusing for a lot of folks that now are saying, gosh, what do we have to do today? Where do we have to go? There's all these new options. Still today, and this has been true for decades, 83% of business owners claim that the main source of new business is referrals. It's still that good old-fashioned analog, old school way that people come to find out about the business and products and services. But how they use referrals, how they collect referrals, what they do with the referral has changed dramatically. And so while there's a lot that people talk about changing in marketing, what I would like to What I would like to suggest is that the thing that's changed the most about marketing is how people choose, and that's right, it's their choice, to become customers. And yet, the old marketing funnel, we just run some ads, do some things, get some people interested, squeeze some small percentage of them through that funnel, and voila, we've got loyal customers. This is still the common practice today. And what I want to suggest today is that the customer journey is no longer this linear path that we control, and that it looks a lot more like this. And that many of the ways in which people research and choose and decide who they are going to buy from is out of our controls. A great part of the customer journey is actually completed in many cases before we even know somebody is interested in our products and services. So today, I believe that marketing is less about creating demand and much more about organizing behavior. Now, what do I mean by organizing behavior? I've been using for the last couple decades a framework that I call the Marketing Hourglass, and that's what I want to start off introducing you to today. The idea behind the Marketing Hourglass is that there are 7 behaviors or stages that I believe all of our customers actually want to go through. In fact, you can use your own buying and purchasing paths and journeys to really validate a lot of this. Those 7 stages are know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. So think about your own purchasing. If we have a problem we're trying to solve, we certainly want to know who's out there, who can help us solve this problem. Once we find maybe one or several people that we think might be good candidates, or somebody tells us about a company they think could help us, what do? We turn to a search engine, or we turn to the web, and we start looking at them, and we start making snap decisions. Do I like what they say? Do I like the way their website looks? Does it look like they're talking about me? Does it look like they have customers like me? We start making kind of those snap decisions before we're thinking, oh, I'm just going to pick up the phone, or I'm going to call them, or I'm going to fill out a form. We're making a judgment about whether or not we want to continue this journey. And then, of course, most of us are not going to buy from somebody unless we trust that they actually can deliver what they're promising. Have they delivered it for other people? Can they prove that they can deliver what they promise? And I don't know about you, but I love it when a company gives me the ability to experience what it might be like to work with them before I become a customer. Now, we're all familiar with the 30-day software trial, but frankly, when I pick up the phone and call a company, I'm trying them out. When I fill out a form or request a quote, I'm trying them out. So there are many ways in which we now can and expect to actually be able to experience what it's like to work with a company. Finally, so many of us have been led up to this place where we finally decide, yes, this is who I'm going to buy from. This is the company I'm going to buy from. And then the experience just falls off. We all want that experience. We all suffer from buyer's remorse. We all want that reassurance and confidence in the experience after we make the purchase as much as before we make the purchase. And then again, I don't know about you, but if I find a company that meets my needs, does what they said they were going to do, I don't go looking. If I need that again, I don't go looking. I just call them up. It's so much more convenient. I already know exactly what I'm going to get. And that's a behavior that I think we all want to be able to lean on. And then lastly, I think as human beings, we're wired to talk about companies that exceed our expectations, that surprise us because it happens so little anymore. Word of mouth and referral is something that many people do as just a common human behavior. And so I think that these, I call them behaviors because I think that rather than awareness and consideration, I think these are the human behaviors that we have to think about guiding. So the real key then is, how can we understand how a customer does or wants to go through these stages? What would they like to experience at each of these stages, which would logically guide them to take the next step, to take the next stage? So by building out your marketing hourglass, you can actually create an entire framework that builds this entire end-to-end customer journey. So many people start with all of the, how can I get somebody to know about my products and services? How can I get them to buy? And those are almost the only 2 considerations. Marketing today is all about bringing know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer together in one end-to-end journey. The absolute greatest source of lead generation for most companies is a happy customer. And that's the idea behind this hourglass metaphor. It does definitely borrow from the funnel shape that most people are very familiar with. The top, we do ultimately have to get people to know about us. We do have to get people to come to our website and consider us. But what happens after that? What happens after they become a customer? That to me is the funnel turned upside down, where the opportunity expands if we can focus on creating that customer experience, if we can focus on creating retention, and if we can focus on creating evangelists for our organization. That's how we build momentum in marketing today. So let's break down each of these steps. What might go in these steps as you're considering, okay, I kind of get this concept, but how can I apply this? Let's go to work on each of the steps individually. The first three stages, know, like, and trust. Really, a lot of people associate that's actually marketing's job is to build that awareness and likability and trust. And this is where the relationship with a potential customer is built. This is where a customer is trying us out. A potential customer or client is trying us out. So what do we need to do so that we can create awareness, so that we can get them to like what they're seeing, so that we can build the trust that it takes for them to start considering buying from us today? And let's face it, nobody wants sales calls. Nobody wants to really even pick up the phone and call somebody and ask questions anymore. And so the barrier to trust is the first barrier we have to cross if we want to even start engaging a potential customer. So what goes in know? This is the box that if we were in a workshop in a room together, I would ask you, okay, what do you think goes in know? How do people come to know about your business? This is typically the stage that most people can name and articulate what might go in these, because we're all very commonly aware of, yeah, we have to get people to know about us. So things like advertising. In many cases, that's a way that somebody first comes to know that you're in existence or that you are set up to solve their problem. Certainly today, a lot of people turn to a search engine. If they're trying to solve a problem, they type it into Google or another search engine to find the companies that they want to do business with today. In a lot of cases, they'll encounter you as a buyer, or your potential customer will encounter content, both just online in various platforms and various places where you read content, places like Medium maybe, certainly social media platforms. A lot of times we'll encounter somebody sharing some useful information. There might be activity in a community, sponsoring a local community event. In some cases, creates awareness for a business that's out there. If somebody refers you, that in many cases is the first case in which somebody can come to know about your business. A lot of folks these days still do outbound sales outreach to folks, and then certainly networking. These are some of the really common things that go into the know bucket. So if you and I were working together today, one of the things we'd start analyzing is, what are you doing in these categories? Not all of these will apply to your business. I'm an author and a public speaker. A lot of the ways people come to know about me are events like this. So that would certainly go in my no bucket. But what applies to your business? And so that's the first step we would look at, is to kind of audit where you are today, but then start saying, okay, where are the gaps? If a lot of folks that find a business like yours actually find it by going to a search engine, where are the gaps in our processes and our campaigns and our emphasis on search engine optimization, for example? So let's go through, or let's continue to go through, so we can get through all 7 of these stages. Now, the like stage is probably the hardest for me to articulate, because for a lot of people, they immediately use the word like. It's like, do you like me? Do you need to like me, even as a business? But it's really my characterization of what's going on in our brains quite often when let's say somebody refers you to me. The first thing you're probably going to do is turn to a search engine and find my website, or look me up, or see what other people are saying about me. You're going to go to that website, and what's the first thing that's going to greet you there? Some message above the fold. That message immediately turns on, or really your visit immediately turns on your analysis of, do I like what I'm seeing? Now you may not immediately say to yourself, I'm going to go to this website and see if I like it. But we are making snap decisions. First impressions are really the entire like. I mean, we do it in human contact as well as going to a website. You saw that statistic I shared in the very beginning. 92% of people go to a website for a reason other than to make a purchase. Well, a lot of times we're going there because we're just evaluating, we're just reviewing, and we're making snap decisions. So does the site look like I expected it to? Are there brand elements that are appealing to me? Does it look like it was built in the 80s? I don't know about you, but because I'm in this business, a lot of times I'll go to a website and if it looks very, very dated, to me, that's like a red flag. That's something that would make it hard for me to consider that business. Is there a story I encounter that I connect with? Is there content there that I connect with? Is there social media or ways for me to connect in social media? Even the user experience. Another thing many people don't consider as part of the marketing customer journey is if you go to a website and it loads very slowly, that's a bad user experience. Not only is Google going to penalize you for that, a lot of visitors are going to make decisions about your business, based on that first interaction. So as we're considering these types of elements, we're asking ourselves, do we create a good user experience? Is there a connection between what our customer or our ideal customer or prospect would expect to see here? Are we messaging around a promise to solve a problem that we know that our ideal customer has, rather than just talking all about ourselves? So that's how we would consider what we need to do as part of this framework, and maybe as a part of the developing projects around what we might do in this stage. Now let's go to the third stage. The third stage is trust. Now this one's harder. I mean, it's not harder to define than like. This one is different than like in that it applies across different industries in many different ways. If you're a professional services provider, an accountant or an attorney, a chiropractor, trust is maybe number one. We're not going to entrust our health or our taxes or some legal matter necessarily to somebody because we found them in a Google search. We're going to investigate. We're going to look for clues. Are there reviews? Are there testimonials? Are there case studies that prove that this person does what they say? Are there media mentions? Are there other people talking about them? Social proof. I mean, are people, do they have fans and followers in some of these social platforms that we all go to? Are there logos of other companies in which they work with? Are there places where their content routinely is shown as an expert? These are the types of things that once we start thinking, okay, I found this company, I like what I'm seeing. Now we're going to dig in and say, are they for me? We're going to start considering, should I call them? Should I give them my email address so I can get some free content? Do I actually go out to Google and search their name now, as opposed to just go to their website? So in this stage, we're considering making the leap to becoming a customer, or at least engaging you as a business. And so on the website, on the homepage, what are the elements that are going to help reinforce this aspect of trust? Now, if you've got bad reviews out there and you've got people on LinkedIn that are talking about something that you have or haven't done, I mean, those are going to be issues, obviously, in the trust journey as well. But what are you doing with the things that you can control, like testimonials and reviews and content that you put on your website? All right, now the journey changes, because once we move from know, like, and trust and move into try and buy, most of what happens in know, like, and trust is in our things. There we go. Most of the things that happen in know, like, and trust are in our control. I mean, we actually put them out there intentionally so that people experience our business in a way that we want them to experience it, so that they move logically through those stages of the journey. But now they're starting to think about becoming a customer. And so now we're in this kind of bridge period where they want to try what it might be like to work with us. And when they do become a customer, what happens? This is where we maybe make or lose the sale, but it's also where I believe that we have the best opportunity to create a long-term successful engagement. So what might go and try? As I said, most people have experienced the 30-day software trial. So most people are familiar with that idea of a free trial. You use the product for a little while, and now you become a customer. I mean, that's the same thing Costco does in the aisles back when they used to sample food. I mean, that was a free trial in a lot of ways. But as I said, I think we as consumers are trying businesses in a lot of ways that businesses don't consider are having a marketing impact. So when I pick up the phone and I call a business because I want to ask them about something, if they have a product, if they're open, whatever it is I'm calling them for, in a way, that's a mini trial. I mean, how they engage, how the person on the other end of the phone was, how the phone was answered, those are all part of my consideration. So they need to be part of the consideration of the buyer's journey as well. If you have a quote request as part of your business or a free evaluation as part of your business. Heck, when I fill out forms, ever had that experience where you fill out a form and you hit send, and you have absolutely no idea where it went or if it got submitted at all or what was going to happen next? I mean, these are all great opportunities to let people know what it's going to be like to work with your business. I mean, our best advice on forms is once somebody hits send them to a page where you can actually teach them more or give them more value. They're never going to be more engaged than when they just came to your website, filled out a form to ask a question or for something. So use that as an opportunity to further demonstrate what it's going to be like to work with you. Video from the owner of the business talking about what's going to happen next is an awesome way to make a great experience happen just from a simple thing like a form filled out. Now, low-cost trials, advanced content, when somebody gets to this stage, now they're ready for the 27-page ebook that is going to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. In the early stages, where they're just looking for a business to see if there's somebody they could trust, maybe they just want a checklist. They just want to see if you've actually got some goods to deliver. But now they're starting to evaluate you and your business. So now you can go much deeper in content. And a word about content. Content really powers every stage of the journey. A lot of times we as marketers have talked so much about the need for content and content is king and all the other silly things we say. Well, it's really the voice of strategy. It's how you move people along this journey. But you have to know that their questions and their objectives change at each of these stages. When somebody's first evaluating a company, they maybe just want some useful quick tips. Is this going to be worth my 60-second read? But once they move farther along the journey, now they want to know how this is going to work exactly for them. So let's keep moving into the buy stage. So now somebody's decided, okay, I'm going to become a customer. This is the single greatest gap or break point in most businesses' journey, because this is the place where there's typically a handoff. And many times that handoff is just not considered a marketing function, but it absolutely is. So for here, have we really analyzed what the transaction process looks like? How do we get the order? Certainly if it's an online thing, how do we remove the friction from the transaction? But have we really thought of it as a marketing impact? What happens when somebody becomes a new customer? Is there a process to onboard them? Is there a process to orient them to what they've purchased? Is there a process to continue the communication about here's what to expect next and next? Here's who in our organization that you need to talk to next and next, or if you have this issue. Frankly, one of the greatest missed opportunities for a lot of people is content after somebody buys. Use that as an opportunity to help them get the most out of what they purchased, to help them understand what other problems you could maybe help them with. I think that one of the greatest opportunities in the buy stage is how can we prove to people the results they're getting? If you are in a service business in particular, a lot of times you're selling air. And so how do you go back and routinely prove to people, look at these results you got. We promised you were going to get these results, and by the way, you did. So often when we have a customer relationship, we do what we said we do. We send them the bill, they pay the bill, but we really haven't reinforced that they got exactly what they paid for. This is a great, great place. Another thing that many people use, I think, to great effect is this is a place where you can actually surprise somebody. So if somebody makes a purchase, what can you do to actually give them something they didn't expect? I remember a few years ago, I bought a pair of shoes, running shoes from an online store. And I opened the box and there were socks and some energy bars in there. Sure, they probably got them from some strategic partners, but it made me sort of an evangelist for this company because they surprised me. I wasn't expecting that with my purchase. All right, now somebody's become clients, it's become a customer. They're happy with the experience. What are we doing to make sure that we both retain them and perhaps find ways to get and do more business with them? So what's the retention process? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with organizations, they bring us in to work on their marketing, and the first thing we find is they have a customer list of 1,574 past customers, and they've never written to them and asked them for more business. They just, if they come back, they come back, but they've never actively written to them and said, here's what else we could do for you, or here's something new that we have. So just having a routine process in place for that, having a routine process for cross promotion. Have you ever had a customer that came to you and said, oh yeah, we just did so-and-so, and you went, wait a minute, we do that, don't you? That is something that I found many businesses are guilty of. Somebody comes to them for one specific need, and we fail to educate them on other ways we could help them. Once you've built trust with a customer and you have a successful relationship, it is so much easier to do more business with them, and they're going to be more willing to do more business with you. I contend that the top 20% of our customers would love to do about 10 times the business that they're doing with us today, but so often we fail to show them how. And that's the last step I throw in here is I think that having a process to continually discover what else your customers need, what else they can't get, where they have gaps. Maybe you don't even provide those products and services, but by continually investigating where your best customers have gaps, in many cases, you can develop a strategy for growth with those customers as opposed to constantly going out and looking for more. All right, so our final stage, referral. And this one's a big giant bucket that I could talk about for so long because so many businesses know that this is in many cases the greatest source of their new leads or new clients, and yet so few do anything about it. It's kind of the curse of the accidental referral. So do you have a process in place that about 4 times a year you are going to hit every one of your clients and customers with some sort of reminder or maybe even some sort of incentive to refer people to you? People refer really mostly for 2 reasons. They refer because you ask them to, or they refer because a friend stops by and says, hey, do you know anybody who can do X? And so if you're staying top of mind, this 4 times a year pattern, you're going to be in a great position to actually receive more of those referrals. Now, we all, fortunately, or hopefully this is true of this group listening today, we all have those champion clients, some percentage of our customer base that is referring, that has a great experience. Maybe they're just wired to do this, but maybe it's because they were the ideal customer. They had the right problem, and we were providing a lot of value for those folks. So they become evangelists for our business. What can you do to establish, I like to call it a club. What can you do to establish a club for that group and really treat them special, bring them together? One of the best things you can do if you have clients is find ways to bring them together so that they can meet and network with each other. Strategic partners. Are there other non-competing businesses that have your same ideal customer in mind? What are you doing to develop relationships with those folks so that you can start doing content and events together so that you can maybe start co-marketing each other's businesses? One last tip, and again, I could do an entire hour just on this. I've worked with a lot of businesses and taught them how to actually teach their customers to get more referrals. Now, obviously, this is a B2B play, probably only a business to business play only. But if you have business customers, they want more referrals, regardless of the industry they're in. What could you do to bring your customers together and create kind of a referral mastermind? I don't know if any of you are in like BNI groups or things like that. Why couldn't you do that with your own customer group and teach referrals as a way to actually ultimately generate more referrals for your business? So those are the 7 stages. And again, as I said, our goal here would be to audit, okay, where do we have gaps? In my experience, try, buy, repeat, and refer have a ton of gaps. Where are there things then? What are the processes or campaigns or content that we need to put in place so that we actually are addressing the questions and the objectives that our ideal customers have at each one of these stages, so that regardless of how they're traveling through this journey, we can be there when they meet that stage. Now, one last note I want to make about this: if any of you are thinking, well, gosh, does this fit in like, or is this trust? It doesn't really matter. There are no hard lines of what category that it should go into. Just consider that there is this end-to-end journey with changing objectives, and fill as many of those gaps as possible. All right, now I'm going to throw a real curve at you. Any fans? I know, I wish I could see you raising your hands right now. Love this show. Steve on the left is wearing a jacket that I actually owned in the 80s. Any of you recognize that? I know it's a small screen, so I'll zoom in on it. This was a brand that was really, really hot in the 80s. Don't be embarrassed if you owned one. It eventually became, like all things, a fad and passed. But I love this jacket, and I love the concept that I'm going to introduce to you around this idea. Okay, we've got those customers. We've built an amazing customer journey. Now, let's take it up a notch with them. What if we came to view our customers more like members? Now, before I go too deep in this, I don't mean a membership model. I mean, that could be a great business model. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm certainly not talking about Sam's Club or that kind of membership. But in a true membership relationship, so in other words, somebody joins an organization as a member, joins your business as a member, there's a distinct difference between why somebody becomes a customer and why somebody becomes a member. So as a customer, we go out there and we research companies, but as a member, we want to engage with an organization. As a customer, we make purchases. As a member, we invest. As a customer, we might refer a business, but boy, as a member, an organization we belong to and believe in, we evangelize. So what if we started to think about what our customers ultimately want? What is the transformation that they're seeking in their business and their life? And I know this can seem a little heavy and deep for some businesses, but stay with me, because I believe that this idea will give you the opportunity to transform how you think about marketing and maybe how you think about your business. So think about your existing customers today and the success journey that you have with them. Customers come to you today, and after making a purchase or engaging your services, in some way they've become more successful. Hopefully, that's the promise, right? But when customers come to you, they're typically and this has been my experience, they're typically in a certain stage of their business or their life or the problem they're trying to solve. And you usually get pretty good at recognizing, they have these certain characteristics, they have these certain needs. And you probably also realize that those characteristics in this stage come with certain challenges. And again, that's most people are trying to solve a problem of some sort when they engage our businesses. And you've probably also started to realize that, hey, if I can solve this problem for them, here's the promise for them. Maybe you even use that kind of language in your sales messaging, that your result after you use this product or service is going to be X. So you may not call them these things, and you may not have documented this idea, but you've probably, if you've been working with your business or with customers for very long, you've probably got an inkling of this. So let me ask you 5 questions then, and we'll keep going on. We'll keep diving into this idea and this theory. So what stage is our customer or your customer in now, and where do they want to go? Have you given that any consideration? So many times we're so locked in on here's what I sell, here's what they're buying, this is the transaction we agreed to. But what if you started saying, okay, yeah, this is the transaction we agreed to, this is what we sell, but where do they ultimately want to go? A lot of people come to us, my marketing firm, in a stage I call foundation. I mean, their website is not producing, they don't really have a good relationship with content or with SEO, but they ultimately want to go to a certain stage in their business where in many ways, the marketing runs itself. Maybe they're even looking at an exit of their business, but where they are today, that doesn't even seem possible. But we know that that's where they want to go. Could you begin to look at your customers? You may not have the answer to this today, but could you begin to look at your customers this way? Could you define the characteristics, maybe at each of those stages? Could you then, and here's the real money question, could you then develop a list, a process of the milestones that your customer needs to achieve to go to the next stage? Again, using my business, we have 5 stages, and I can tell you exactly the milestones that we need to achieve to get that customer, that we need to check all those boxes, perform all the tasks to get that customer to the next stage. And ultimately, if we do that, we know that we're going to be successful in providing value to them. So the beauty about milestones is our milestones are, there's only 2 answers, yes or no. So we don't have a milestone that says, is their website effective? I don't know, no way to answer that. But we do have a milestone that says, does their website load effectively on a mobile device? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, we check the box. If the answer is no, we know exactly what tasks and action steps to take to make sure that they can achieve that milestone. And then obviously, we then go, after documenting this, we go and put into place the systems that we need to create so that we almost guarantee that somebody goes on those stages, moves through the stages of this customer success track. Now, I've developed this completely for marketing. I've been doing it for 30 years, but my real contention in the Ultimate Marketing System book is that I want to teach every business how to do this for their customers, to develop this yes or no mentality of, can we take them from where they are today to where they want to be, to where they need to be, to create this customer success track that identifies the stages and the characteristics and the challenges and the promise. And frankly, most of your customers are probably in one stage today. That's what I find, or maybe 2 stages, is that you're serving a certain ideal customer. And again, I am talking about your ideal customers because you can't make everybody successful. So your ideal customers probably come to you with a certain problem or in a certain stage of life or in their business. They have certain characteristics that you as a salesperson maybe have started to notice. Oh, if they're saying this, or if they have this challenge going on, that's a pretty good bet we can serve them. You also know maybe the problems that they're having, the challenges they're having, and then you've probably seen, if we get them a great result, this is the promise of getting them a great result. So the key behind this customer success track thinking is, what's stage 2 look like? What's the next level up from where they are today? And the next level up, and the next level up. Maybe they're 3, maybe they're 5, maybe they're 7. The number doesn't really matter. It's really a point of view about how you think about your relationship with your customer. And I believe it will dramatically impact, does have the opportunity at least to dramatically impact how you think about your business, not just about what you provide. So the mission of the business actually can become to transform a customer rather than to simply create a transaction. The businesses that I have worked with over the years that have been able to embrace and adopt this mentality, it's impacted their business in ways that they hadn't even thought about. It has, as I've already alluded to, help them to actually define the mission. You know, we all go out there and we create these missions and put them on a plaque or put them on a website somewhere about, you know, what we stand for. Well, if the only thing we stand for is getting our customer from where they are to where they want to be, that is a very actionable mission that we can actually go to work on. Everybody in the organization can understand that that's the goal. It's pretty simple. It's not just a bunch of words that are made up to sound good on paper. It's a pretty simple goal. Now we have to define what those stages and what those roadmaps look like, but it's a pretty simple goal. From a messaging, sales messaging standpoint, It is such an impactful message, but it's also in this idea of client retention. If you're actually going to work with somebody and you're saying, yes, here's what we're going to do today, but here's where we can take you. This is what the 3-year plan looks like. All of a sudden, you're talking about customers for life. And that's part of your messaging, certainly from a sales standpoint. From a training standpoint, it is so much easier for us to train folks that come into our organization, even train third-party outside vendors and freelancers that we bring into our organization, because we have developed this roadmap that has so many specific milestones and tasks on it. We can document and delegate so many of the things that need to be done now because we have this clear path. It definitely impacts the service that we provide because everyone on the team is thinking in terms of where they are to where they want to be. Same goes with hiring. We're actually able to define, I think one of the things that is so hard for people to actually find good people, or at least attract the people that they want in their organization, is it's very hard for them to create a message of differentiation, a mission of differentiation that somebody wants to join. So we're actually recruiting and hiring members in a way who want to participate in this customers as members mindset. So I know I threw a lot at you today, and I'm going to kick it back to Allison to really kind of take some of our questions and discussion of anything you want to talk about today. I see some questions and hands up. If you want to get a hold of me, any of these ideas, it's just john@ducttapemarketing.com. Ask me any questions about today. The content that I talked about today is taken from my book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine, which will be out in September. And there's a website there that if you want to find out more, some goodies, there's actually even some free chapters and things like that there. So Allison, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, John. Wow, so much good information. And you're right, the traditional sales funnel certainly isn't, the one size fits all, or maybe even the modern model anymore. We're personally currently renovating our home, and I know that just from personal experience, the journey to finding and choosing a contractor took so many twists and turns, from social media to review sites to home sites like House, to referrals from friends and neighbors. So I can really see how it's so important to reach folks wherever they are in their journey, in that right channel, and then with the right messaging or the right offer or the right content that best meets their needs at that point in time. And then deliver them an exceptional customer experience that makes them want to tell all their friends about it. So thank you so much for those insights.
Yeah, I wish you had told me that. I wish you would have told me that
ahead.
at the beginning. I would have just used a remodeling contractor as the example, because they're a great one, because so many people have had such nightmare experiences with contractors. They led up to everything, sounded great. Everybody said good things about them, and then the dog got out, and then the door was left unlocked, and then the drywall was not saying, anyway, I could go on.
It's so true. So true. All right, so we've got a few minutes for some questions. If you have a question you'd like to ask John, go ahead and type it into the question box on your screen. While those are coming through, John, I have a question for you. So you talked a lot about customer experience and delivering a good customer experience to help generate referrals.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to companies that are maybe just getting started and don't have a big customer base to serve really well, and are really in that more building stage of their business journey?
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I give to startups, because you're right, a lot of what I've talked about assumes that you have a customer, assumes that you've been able to get results for a customer, and I will say it's never too early to go to work on creating a great customer experience, because you're not going to get referrals because of some hack somebody like me gives you. You're going to get referrals because you're referable. So you definitely have to focus on that aspect. But probably one of the best places for somebody just getting started to go is to potential strategic partners. So if I'm as a marketing consultant, I'll use myself as a marketing consultant. If I was going to get started, I would go to maybe executive coaches who work with CEOs or work with business owners and try to demonstrate, find a way for me to show them the value that I could bring to their customers, offer to do some sort of workshop for their customers, or find some way in which maybe I'd even do work for free for that, executive coach, so that not just because they're going to do it because they're going to refer because they got a freebie. They're doing it because they've experienced what it's like to work with me. They can talk confidently about what it's like to work with me. So develop 5 or 6 relationships like that. And in many cases, those folks can actually be more potent than some of your customers, because, the right, non-competing business might have 100 people they could put you in front of. Whereas, your customer might know 3 people, over their lifetime that they can refer to you. We have a glaring example of this, Allison. I mean, Cox Media is bringing duct tape marketing to their audience because they believe that I can deliver something of value. And obviously, there's a lot of people that are on the call today that have maybe never heard of duct tape marketing that now at least have some awareness. It is, in effect, your stamp of trust is, in effect, a way of a referral.
Awesome. All right, so one of the questions that's come in is, earlier in the presentation, you shared a stat about customers not considering businesses with low ratings.
Yes.
What can businesses do to encourage customers to rate and review if they've had a positive experience with your business?
Yeah, and that's a tough one because, unfortunately, human nature somehow drives the people that are negative or had a bad experience to crawl through broken glass to leave a bad review, whereas somebody who loves us and they're thrilled with us, it's like, oh yeah, I'll get around to that, they're great people, I don't really have time to leave a review. So it does require us to be very intentional about that. So there are a number of strategies that really all kind of come down to try to get that review at the moment of truth. I mean, when somebody's just gotten a result, when you've done the walkthrough of your remodel, when Rusty has fixed the water heater in the middle of the night in your basement. I mean, you want to really think in terms of asking for that review at those moments. You probably, and every business is different. You probably want to find ways to get everybody in the organization involved. So if you have salespeople, if you have technicians, if you have customer service people, all of them should be maybe even incentivized or put into a contest of some sort to generate those, because truthfully, it is a matter of asking, of making it easy, of staying top of mind. So, you might consider a monthly, if you're one of those businesses that maybe gets 30 new projects, every month or something, you might consider some sort of a monthly blanket, email asking for it. Make sure that you make it easy. It has gotten a lot easier, but don't assume that everybody knows how to leave you a Google review or a Yelp review or a Facebook review. So make sure that you're teaching them and educating them. And there are even tools out there now that kind of can create this one click, click here and leave a review in your preferred place. So, make it easy. Ask a lot and look for those moments of truth when you know that they really are happy and they're really engaged to take action.
Awesome. When you're talking about your marketing hourglass and you talked about know, like, and trust, how important is that first part of the hourglass to delivering the value in the middle and end parts of the hourglass?
Yeah, well, I think it's extremely important, and here's why. One of the real points of know, like, and trust is certainly to get people to raise their hand and say, I want to know more, I want to buy. But what it really does is also filters out people who maybe aren't a good fit. Because what you're doing is you are, in some cases, demonstrating, here's how we work, here's how we provide value, here's how we're different, here's who we serve. And by consequence of that whole path, you're also saying the opposite. You're not a good fit if you're looking for the lowest price. You're probably not a good fit if you want a quick fix. You're probably not a good fit if. And that education process is really how we filter in some ways and teach people what an ideal customer looks like. And so for some people, it can feel tedious because we just want the appointment. We want the call. It's like, bring them on. But we don't want tire kickers, and we don't want people who want something for nothing. And so, part of our job as marketers is to make sure that they realize why we charge a premium for what we do, and why we're worth it. And that takes a process. And that's really a lot of what we go to work on in this know, like, and trust phase.
Generating the right leads or attracting the right customers versus maybe ones that are looking for the most cost-effective option, go with you, and then are potentially unhappy because you can't deliver the right service at their price point, and then they end up leaving a bad review, and it just skews the whole thing, right?
They become the detractors, and so we thought, oh, it's an opportunity, I guess I can do it, and we take business that's really not a good fit, because hey, I get it. It was a slow month, whatever. I mean, we're going to take that business. But in the end, we've all probably, if you've been in business any amount of time at all, those red flags were there for a reason, and you probably, you would be better off. And truthfully, I think the real challenge is once you start getting busy. I mean, early on, it's like, yeah, I'll take anything. I'll talk to anybody. But once you start getting busy, you really underestimate the opportunity cost that is sunk into chasing business, or worse, trying to serve business that's not the right fit. You'd be far better off on saying no and really building your business around the people that you can deliver a lot of value to, and who want the value that you could deliver.
Great. All right, well, I've got an eye on the clock, and I want to give everyone a couple moments to either go to their next meeting, get back to work, get a coffee refresh, whatever it is you need. As a quick reminder, recording of today's webinar will be emailed to you, and we'll be back again in November with another guest expert and some more great content. So we hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, you can check out our blog for articles, ebooks, and recordings of some of our previous Ask the Experts webinars on hub.coxmedia.com. And as always, for any additional questions regarding today's content, just contact your Cox Media consultant. And if you're not a current customer, you can visit coxmedia.com to connect with one of our media experts. So thank you all again for your time and your attention. And we also thank you, John, for your time and great insight. And we look forward to seeing all of you again next time.